Well, we're now being joined by Steve Okwori, who's a security consultant in a moment, and Dr. Priscilla Achakpa, founder, Global Lead Women Environmental Program. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight. Mr. Okwori will join us as soon as we establish contact with him. But let me begin with you. You work closely with women and children, the vulnerable. We understand you were in the community yesterday, if I'm not wrong. What did you see? Can you describe the toll this kind of recurring violence has on the vulnerable, such as the women and children, both physically, psychologically? What did you see on ground?
Well, thank you very much for bringing me on board. And before I go to talk about what I saw yesterday, let me give a little bit of context to what we're discussing here. Yeah. I started working on the conflict situation in Benue as far back as 2001. I have been to the Jukum versus Steve crisis, the Arobo versus Steve, and all the conflicts that you can think of in Benue State, and not just in Benue State, including Plateau State. And the challenge has been that it is usually the women and children that are mostly affected. The first crisis that we had between the Tiv, the Aragos, and that is in Nasarawa State, and the first camp that was established in Daudu. If you go there, you will see the kind of suffering that these women were going through. Children were killed. And as at yesterday, when I got there, on the surface, when you are passing on the road, you don't see anything. Until you begin to go inside, you know that this is a kind of a well-planned attack. This attack has been planned, and they came in different angles, because when I was talking with the villagers, they told us that while they knew that something like that was going to happen, and so they were a little bit prepared, but because they are armless, there was little or nothing they could do. These people came in their thousands, and they came from 4 different angles, and some of them were on bike, and they were they had well sophisticated weapons that they were killing them. And the most annoying thing is that those that were killed are also those that were being displaced, and they were taking refuge in these places. They were sleeping in the stores, and they came and burnt them alive. Several women, I have all the list, most of the list of the people that have died, numbering over 200, for goodness sake. We cannot say this is Fulani herd and Fulani farmer crisis. This is, I would call it a genocide on the people of Benue State. Because what is happening in Goma, I heard the governor talk about this has been a long time. Like I stated, I work in this place since 2001. And in this 2001, a lot of things had happened. It is not just in Goma. You also have in Konde local government. You also have in Agatu local government. You also have in Ado local government. You also have in Okun versus Zakibian local government. There is only very few, maybe about 2 or 3 local government that are spared about what is happening in Benue State. And at each point in time, the people that are suffering are mostly women, and there has been no effort to see how this can be addressed. Go to the hospitals and see the number of casualties that we have there. It is so annoying. When I was there and I was talking with the communities and talking with especially women, and the priest in that place, the priest was, just told me that he was just waiting for the people to come and kill him and his caskets, because he had nowhere to go to. These are his people. He has been posted there, of course, to bring support to the people. And yet, they were killing them. So when we asked them, when I was talking to them, they were telling me that, well, to be honest, and I'm saying it the way they told me.
Yes. Okay.
The police and the soldiers that were deployed there, they tried their best. But how many of them were there? These people came in thousands. And so it was difficult for them to be able to cope with those that came with these flying hazards.
You know, this Benue situation, it seems to be a complex mix of unresolved, there's boundary disputes, involved, competition over mineral-rich lands, activities of armed herders, militia groups, communal clashes and what have you. It's a mix, apparently. And you say you've been following this since, for a long time now, since 2001.
Yeah.
What would you say is the overarching motive behind this? Why is the food basket of Nigeria at the receiving end of these violent attacks? Does government really get the point when it says, look, live in peace with your brothers and sisters, with your fellow, community members and all of that? Please.
Well, I think that we need to understand that there are so many factors that are contributing to the crisis that we have. Benue has a very fertile land. And this land, because of the population of surge, people are migrating from the rural areas to the urban area because of this conflict. And of course, the land is also shrinking because there's population explosion. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people are looking for this. The farmers, the herders are looking for where they will be able to graze their cattle. While the farmers are looking for land, or the land is there, but there's competition over these resources. And I will say that, was it 2013, the federal government instituted a land reform act, presidential land reform. Mm-hmm. I was part of that. At a point, nothing happened to that. And until some of those things are being redefined, the drying up of Lake Chad, climate change is coming in. Climate change is a huge issue. Until now, nobody was linking climate change to the violent conflict that are happening right now. But there's competition over the resources, and the people, the farmers, the land is no longer there for them to farm as it used to be. So unless we adopt modern technology of farming, which means that we have to look at the issues of agricultural inputs. How do we address the small farmers, small farm holders? How do we address them? How do we address the issues of food security? Benue State used to be the food basket of the nation, but now the basket is empty.
Indeed. We're seeing that reflecting on food inflation already. Dr. Achakpa, stay with us. We need to go on a quick break and then perhaps bring in Steve Okwori, the security consultant, into this conversation. Please stay with us.
All right, we have Steve Okwori, is a security consultant, and of course, Dr. Priscilla Achakpa, founder, global lead, Women Environmental Program, joining us tonight on Newsnight to discuss issues and developments in Benue State. Let me bring this to you, Steve Okwori. As a security consultant, so much has been done, all kinds of efforts, put in place over time to address the security situation in Benue State, including Operation Cat Race and what have you. In spite of all of this, the situation in Benue persists. What do you think is really at the root of this crisis? And now the president is planning to go to Benue on Wednesday. How do you think this will really address the fundamental issues in Benue?
Okay, thank you for inviting me to give my perspective on the killings, merciless killings, senseless killings that is happening in Benue. First of all, my heart goes to the victims, the families, and also the governor, who happens to be the #1 citizen of the state. You see, I've said it times with a number. You can't keep doing the same thing and you expect a different result, right? We are talking about different operations carried out in Benue as a result of this. These issues are not new. We've been experiencing this for over a decade now. And we are doing the same thing. Very recently, the Chief of Army Staff was in Benue. He went and came back. After his visit, you have seen the killings of over 150-something persons in Benue. As we speak, the IG also was in Benue today. It is the same thing that we are doing, right? These things happen. You deploy soldiers, deploy police. At the end of the day, either 1 month, 1 week, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, they are withdrawn. How do we now see how to address this thing? I am a researcher. I did my PhD thesis on kidnapping for ransom, and they afforded me the opportunity to interact with criminals. I met kidnappers, and I know the information I extracted from them. If you want to carry out such a sensitive military operations, there's no need for publicity, media show. A victim, when I interviewed during my thesis, told me that these criminals had radio in the forest. They were also listening to news. So some of these operations should be clandestine, should be covert, right? Now, what do you think, what do I feel or think that can be done differently? there's already a missing link. The missing link is that these crimes happen in our rural communities. Do we have presence of security in our rural communities? The answer is no. How do we now address the issue for us to have presence of security in our rural communities? I think that's a way to go. If we channel a part in that regard, we can have presence of security in our rural communities. There's this Nigerian Forest Security Service, the bill to establish the Nigerian Forest Security Service that is before Mr. President. Mr. President is one president that I have discovered that understands our issues. He knows that there's no presence of security in our rural communities. And that is why he has gone to establish or approve the establishment of forest guards, right? Because he knows that these forests are situated in our rural communities. Our rural communities lack security presence. These criminal elements hibernate or find these forests as safe haven. They see these forests as hideouts. They come carry out these attacks, retreat, regroup, come back again, and also carry out these attacks. So there is need for us to have security presence in our rural communities. The police, the military also needs local intelligence to work with. Which agency of government in terms of security now do we have on ground that provides local intelligence? We don't have. And that is why I am advocating or asking that just the way Mr. President has been signing bills or signed bills establishing the 6 geopolitical development commissions that we have, you should also expedite that same action to sign the Nigerian Forest Security Service bill so that they can also become part of the security architecture. We can address these issues locally.
Okay, Mr. Okwori, thank you for your submission. And just like Dr. Achakpa had earlier said, Governor Alia earlier also submitted that there seems to be a pattern. These people come and first attack security formation. They are repelled and then they go for the vulnerable community. And he did say that happened in Yetewa as well. Since there's a pattern, I wonder, standing from your security point of view, what do you make of these attacks? But most importantly, there's one question that remains unanswered after several years of this crisis: the identity of the perpetrators. We've heard those who said they are foreigners. The governor said that. We've heard those who say they are armed militias. We've heard those who say, it's genocide, is within, is the enemy within. How do we bring justice to the people if we cannot even identify the perpetrators? What are your take on that? I mean, is this intelligence gap or is this willful shielding of perpetrators? What are we dealing with?
They are all encompassing. There's lack of intelligence, failure of intelligence, whether we like it or not, right? In the event where we base our findings of investigation based on speculation, we can't get that desired result, right? You cannot, a detailed investigation, detailed findings will unravel who these people are. There's no security structure or organization that confronts these criminals. So they come carry out these acts of violence on our people. Now, from what you have said, they have modus operandi, the way they operate. So if we have structures, security agents, well-armed, that are used to their community, they know their terrain, they understand their environment, unlike the soldiers or the police that they deploy to these communities that are aliens to this community. They don't know anywhere within the communities. And for the soldiers and the police to function, they must work with the locals, people that live in these very communities, right? And that is why I'm still using this opportunity to advocate for the bill that is establishing the Nigerian Forest Security, because members of these communities, that they are members of the Nigerian Security Service, Forest Security Service. They were trained by the police, by the military, by the civil defense, the DSS. They trained these people. So they are conversant with their communities in the event where strangers come, because these killers are strangers in these communities, right? So they cannot know these communities more than the main inhabitants of these communities. So they will have the experience, the wherewithal, if they are well-armed as well, to confront these guys. Because these guys come with more sophisticated weapons than even the police. So if they are well-armed, they can be able to confront these guys. And that is why I am saying that we need local intelligence. And that is the gap. That is the missing link.
Intel
right?
is
because without intelligence is good understanding. If you don't have good understanding of the issues based on security survey and all that, you can't function, you can't get result.
Achakpa, we're pressed for time. 30 seconds if you can, very quickly. How do you address the issue of the vulnerables, the women and the children? What does government need to do to protect these vulnerable populations?
It's simple.
No, sorry. Okay, this is actually for Dr. Achakpa. We have to wrap very quickly.
Very simple. First and foremost, just as Dr. Okwori has said, we need community policing. We need to profile every person that enters into our community, because you cannot be into your house when somebody enters without you knowing.
Right.
So the government needs to work with the communities to establish community policing in every community in the rural areas to make sure that the vulnerable groups are protected.
Thank you so much, Dr. Priscilla Achakpa, founder, Global Lead Women Environmental Program, otherwise known as WEP. And Steve Okwori is a security consultant. Thank you for joining us on Newsnight tonight.